all
It
these
wasn't me.
things that when you do surveys,
It
people.
never,
Yeah.
Linda, have you had COVID or you just doing that for protection?
We don't have them.
We don't have the money.
You wearing the mask for protection for yourself?
Grants. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, they say bunch of $50 bills.
Hey, if I'm on the line.
Now, I have.
Well, you do it piece by piece. I mean, the land is free because that's what the will says. If somebody actually, like the
We got enough for-
board
We got it.
actually decides
Yeah,
to
we got it.
enforce the will,
just
it is to be used as a park.
What's her name?
Was it
Or
just an
actually
image?
sold.
I'm
Go
going
ahead.
to protection of the fall.
Sold, sold.
I haven't seen Amber since she was.
So- so-
Does it sell
Yeah.
once? Does it sell all in our district? Is it-
No,
That's
it
part-
comes to the trustee.
Cornish,
To the
yeah, I think-
trust,
I
right,
was thinking
and what the
Cornish
trust
hen.
says is, well, we would have been out of.
Yeah, I
money
wonder
all
where
day
she is.
if we didn't keep that money, except for the fact that they don't use
I
that
don't know whether
money
we,
for
she
Horner
may
Park,
think we
which
need
is
to
the
have to
other thing
invite her or
that
something.
makes sense.
Well, yeah, they do.
if you ask me.
Not
That's not.
really. When you go to the meetings every single month like I do, they do
Very good, yeah.
essentially nothing, other than stop the Horner Park board from doing things that the public wants them to do.
Well, I understand that. I understand that, but as far as somebody's putting it in their pocket, they can go to jail for that. They don't get that. much.
Sure was a nice day today.
It was nice out there. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you
I
had a good day.
Which is.
You signed these already?
I have, no, I'm gonna come in tomorrow.
Yeah, come in tomorrow.
If we do it tonight. Sure.
Well, I'm all right, don't worry.
Let the
Well, I mean,
board
bringing up
is the
during
public
meeting,
entity
fucking
that.
flagpoles.
Well. On the other hand, there are things that the trustees have stopped the board.
I'll bring it up there.
doing that I thought.
Okay, did you look at the price?
No,
Did it say those same two, that one right there, it was two ninety-eight, whatever it was, and I'll put it in myself. But there she is.
Oh,
But
there
it's 298.
Yeah.
But I'll, all the.
See,
Okay.
how the current lease.
You're not confused.
And you're.
Yes, sir.
You want these then?
No, when you sign. Sign it, sign it.
Oh, I always mix it up. I always mix it up.
When you're older.
You're too young, you're not old. Hush with that.
Yeah, as far as that.
Don't let that out, please, okay?
You sign it.
I sure do. I do the left block, then the middle, then the right, then the right, then the left.
Yeah, it doesn't change the fact
You got a
that
full house.
they don't own it then.
Good.
Well, noted, however, they're saying it's like, no, you can't plant trees.
As long as one item on the agenda.
We should talk about it. There's a lot of things in there to be worded right. Probably talk about the last one. You don't need a food card, you just don't have a crossbow, but they're telling people they can't shoot a crossbow in their own backyard. I think that's gibberish, but we're, well, criticizing on the air rifle.
I know.
That you could go without a problem. Are you coming this way, this?
You haven't seen my, I have a confounded book. Confounded?
Compound?
No, confounded.
Compound.
My son gave it, and well, it looks like, it's a toy.
Yeah, well,
It's a toy, but it kind of looks like a compound.
now,
It shoots darts.
Okay.
before you run for something.
Did you listen to
Better out where you run.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm not really the meeting here.
No, I did.
I would assume it's. I'm saying.
Excuse me, here. Amber, you want your computer? Yes, dude.
What about?
You want one too? It costs you $5.
Okay.
You're okay. The timing.
What about the library?
No, when I read
Bother you. Landscaping.
What do you call your hairdo? What do you call your hairdo?
It's just the head covering.
I bought one for myself, a wave cap.
It's just a hat.
Yeah.
It's not a wave cap.
Yeah, I bought a wave cap because I had surgery on my head, and because I asked the black fellow about it, but now I can't work and I can't put it on right.
No, it's not a wave cap. That's right, you ain't got your head on right, we know that. We know that.
Doing good, then get together.
Yeah.
2 minutes too.
It's okay. You get it.
Is he gonna hit the gavel and walk out like the mayor in St. Louis did? Not the mayor, but
All good.
the alder lady. Didn't you hear about that? The alder had the St. Louis council.
Right.
She hammered and she walked out. She closed the meeting, walked out because she didn't want to discuss the various ways of spending millions of dollars.
Right.
We won't have that problem.
You need an agenda? Yeah. Hang on, I'll print. Can I?
Oh, mine's right on my phone.
Couple copies.
Yes.
Does everybody have the same thing?
There's only one thing on
Yeah,
it.
they don't have anything. to do.
Yeah, I mean, you really,
Does everybody have the same thing?
What did she say? Because Training was saying.
You look better, Penny, than you did last week.
You want one? You get rid of that.
Hi, I'm Pat Stevens. Amber?
Yes, I do. Nice to meet you.
Oh, that's.
Oh, it's not good. You can get stuff in red.
And she's
No, no.
in surgery.
yeah.
She has a problem in her hip.
Well, see, I don't have that.
She's not.
Yes, it is.
Be done anyways.
And it's very.
They start talking to her.
Think we're waiting on Willie to make it a copy.
Signature.
Well, you guys are tough to look at, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Aren't they tough to look at? Huh?
RP, it's good to have you back, sir. We don't know how we're gonna hold it together, but.
I don't know.
Charlie would.
You want to make
I
copies?
think you wanted to make a copy of it. So,
You guys wanted copies of the
Maybe on the machine, we got.
agenda?
What's on your agenda?
No?
Yeah.
We should be out of here before seven.
What are we gonna talk about?
Sure.
Well, it's up to you guys.
You wanna talk about the library?
The cemetery is on
Yeah,
the
it's
list
not,
there.
it's not on the agenda.
Huh?
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
Did you put it on there?
You wanted it, you should have put it on.
You have to put it on.
She's back at home.
Who needed one?
You.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Well, there's a half of, we have anything one?
got it on my phone.
I got any, you know, what, how about? I
Not mine.
I know you guys do. Wow, talk about timing. It is 6:30. All order the Lebanon City Council Committee meeting for February 3rd, 2025. Roll call, Washington,
Here.
Cornish,
Here.
Whitty, Stevenson,
Here,
okay, Dale, you're here. Dale,
Oh, yeah.
Dale,
You didn't say Rika.
I didn't say Trinket. That's three off, because you were sitting there looking.
I was looking at Charlie.
Pat,
Here.
Farah here. Okay, we have the roll call for the record. Audience participation, anybody from the audience have anything that you want to bring up? You got 5 minutes,
There's one.
okay,
I have something for each of the two committees meeting tonight. It's more a matter of questions that I would like to have answered before we all leave this place tonight. in terms of, so for the road committee, I would like to know the status of the Brick Street plan for both downtown and the roads, where I presented a comment earlier, a couple of months ago, about how, the only way you're gonna get that road to really drain properly is removing at least some, and along the edges in the parking areas makes a lot of sense, of the asphalt that's underneath the brick and never should have been put there in the first place. So I'd like to know the status of the plans on that. And then also for the ordinance committee, I presented fairly lengthy comments and passed out information on revisions to the Lebanon city ordinances with respect to cultural resources, where there's places where it's just plain contradictory to law, let alone internally contradictory. So that's not really an option on changing it. You need to. So what's the status of that?
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Okay, moving on to alderperson comments.
I could get with you when it comes to the street part right there, because obviously I remember when you were talking about that earlier, obviously since I've been here since December. I could get with you offline after this meeting and we could talk and go from there on that one to answer your question on the first one.
Thank you very much.
But I do have two other things, the flagpoles, Woody, you told me to get with Amber Cornish, we got
She's public property.
proper property. That black flagpole we got right there, I put up a little stink before and I got us to have one, but I think we should get the Illinois flagpole and we should also get a POW flagpole. They're $2.98 a piece, just like that one right there, and I'm the one that even put that one in. But I think at City Hall here, let's be real, we should have an Illinois flag up there. I believe we need a POW as well,
What's up there now?
the American flag.
Okay.
Cause before we had a PVC pipe that, well, that's not a flagpole.
Sorry, we didn't have a real flag.
So if we could look into, getting those two, I mean, I put it in for $3.99, so simple right there. But I think we need to have it at City Hall. We should.
Gotcha.
And my only other one is, just my own personal opinion. I know we're working on the ambulance contract. I think our response times on our ambulance, that service that we do have here is subpar, terrible. Let's be real, it does not take you 45 minutes to get from here to Summerfield. It does not. And that's your average response time, which is all public knowledge. It doesn't take 19 minutes to go somewhere in Lebanon when they're supposed to be right here. Again, I know we're working a contract with them and there's only some things we can or cannot say, but I think we really need to look into whether we keep these people or we do not keep them. I believe it's MedStar and Abbott, but when it comes down to it, I know not every story is a horror story, but it shouldn't take you 45 minutes to get to Summerfield. It does not take you 19 minutes to get anywhere in Lebanon, especially with an ambulance. I'm not the most in shape guy in the world, but I tell you right now, I can jog a lot faster from one end to from here to somewhere in Lebanon, faster than 19 minutes.
Did they have a previous run?
They did not have previous runs. That's something that I've been talking to Ms. Washington offline, but I think it needs to be brought up to all of us as a whole. I'm sure we've all heard horror stories here and it is not getting any better. And
So you're sure it's not Abbott and Costello?
I'm not too happy with them. I get it. The whole you pay, you don't pay type stuff. That's another whole subject, but at the end of the day, if they're under contract, I'd rather go pay higher dollars to pay for somebody that's not gonna take 19 minutes on an average call time. That's the difference between, let's just be real, you dying and not dying.
Right.
That's true, because when Sherry had her heart attack, it was here, and I think it took 35 minutes for them to get.
Something that needs to be looked at. I mean, I know it's coming up, but I hate waiting until the last second, then we're waiting another 6 months to pass a piece of paper. No, we're not doing that.
Tom, I agree with you because it took, when I fell going into the building for that tour, hit my head and it was only a block away. And it took 20 minutes for them to get to the chiropractic office to transport me. And then, to be very frank, on Friday, when I got home from the hospital, I slipped and ended up on the floor next to my bed. And you know what it's like when you're in a hospital for 5 days. You're not doing anything, you have no strength. It takes a while to build it back up. It took them 20 minutes to get to my house on Harmon to have to do an assist, a lift assist. And they knew what they were doing when they got there. So, and we need to really take a good look at that contract and may have to send it out to bid again for contracts.
So, in my opinion, that's unacceptable. I'm sorry, that's I don't like that at all. There's no way. So what is preventing us from just getting a new company to?
First of all, Amber,
Mhm.
we are sending, a letter to the company about the mess they made in the back,
Okay,
to see if they can take care of that. Then we've got to meet with the people and discuss these other options.
okay.
So there's no sense in bringing them up now because we don't have answers. Now, when we meet with their staff, we can get all the answers that we need. And whomever wants to be there can be there.
Now, if there cannot be more than 2 members of the city council present for a meeting with them, if there are more than 2 members, then we have to post it as a public meeting. And exactly, so we have to be very careful about who meets. So if there are gonna be a meeting with the ambulance company, then we need to decide which 2 members of the council will represent the city at that meeting. Otherwise, we're ending up in open meeting act
Why don't we just,
territory.
why don't we just get together, everybody, put a big sign up and say, come on up on a certain day at a certain time, and we do it.
We won't have.
Do what?
A public meeting.
It still needs to be posted. We need to, if we're gonna have a meeting with more than 2 members of the city council,
Okay,
we still need to post that meeting.
okay,
And if it's gonna be an executive meeting, then we need to post the fact that it is a closed meeting. Because there are issues that we cannot discuss in public because because there are issues involving contracts, et cetera. Those are not for public discussion until we vote on them. You can make comments when we're ready to vote. But we can't just have an open meeting like that. Now, if we're gathering public comment, we could schedule a meeting
there we
for
go.
public comment only. And again, it will have to be posted. And we'll have to have a quorum of the council here, which is at least 5 members, but 2 is a majority of a quorum, therefore, that's why we have to post those meetings. That's the Open Meeting Act. But we have limitations as to what we can say. We cannot make, even like right now, we're talking about talk about them, but as long as we're not talking about any specifics of the contract, we're okay right now for discussion, open discussion. And we're all here to have this alderperson open discussion. It's on the agenda. We can have an open discussion. We just cannot make a decision or make a recommendation.
And 2 of the council members informally meet with some of the people in the ambulance service.
Mhm. Not a meeting then.
Yeah, right.
But then, you know, you'd have a hard time reporting it back because you didn't have a meeting to report back. It gets complicated because this Open Meeting Act, the legislature is working on getting it a little looser for us. But until that happens, we can't, our hands are tied. So, anything else on the ambulance thing? Since that was brought up by Alderperson, Belkey.
To answer your question, Ms. Cornish, it's a hell of a handbasket and it takes forever, unfortunately. When it shouldn't,
Figure
but
it out.
and I hate
In the
that,
meantime, people are
'cause-
dying because they didn't get there fast enough. That's unacceptable.
If you're saying that, you have to have some evidence that somebody died because of.
I'm not saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you gotta be careful what you say.
You're right. I'm not saying that they're dying. I'm just saying I'm just thinking about family members and friends that call the ambulance.
Oh, yeah.
It's taking so long.
Yeah.
So that'll be on the agenda, I think, sometime in the very near future. Two members of the council will get together and hash out that contract. And they can, you can have staff, all the staff you want with you. You can have the mayor, you can have the clerk, just can't have more than two council members. Ah. Unfortunately, I had to teach that for 20 years, so I know that law.
Do you have another?
Anything else for Alderperson? Any other Alderperson have anything?
I have to wait till council,
For library?
library, yeah.
Yeah, you can talk about it, but we can't talk about it.
Oh, I can talk about it, but you can't.
Right, we can't make a decision.
No,
We can talk about, but we can't talk about specifics of the contract or details.
Well, what I was thinking was that two of us visit with the people at the library and make sure they understand that Elise is going to be called up and we need to talk.
Yep, you gotta decide which two. Is it gonna be from public property chair and, ordinance or?
I think just take two people off the,
Council,
council.
but it'd be good to have two specific people. We can name them by their committee. For example, property would be an appropriate chair of the property committee, which is your committee.
Okay, you wanna be it, too? No? Okay,
If you want, yeah, that's fine with me.
That's two people.
Finance, you can have finance, whatever, so.
Finance is a good one for that.
okay. And we'll,
So the two of you,
should for, what's his name? And me, that we'll go ahead and visit with the people.
right,
Okay,
you might want to let the attorney know there's something happening.
We can go with your water sewer.
Your water and sewer, actually Amber should be there because she's public property.
well, let's do it, two people,
Okay,
okay?
so it would be Amber and public property and finance. Woody,
So everybody still has a copy of that.
that contract, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's good. And then I've got a question about, the budget. And, I don't really understand some of it. Like, so there are certain department heads here, okay? And how many are there?
Water, sewer, streets and alleys. Then there's the mayor, and the office, the accountant takes care of the office stuff. Those are our departments. We just have the two, water, sewer, streets and alley.
Okay, now, those folks are gonna submit a budget to the council, right?
No, they submit the budget to the treasurer.
Well, that's where you're gonna get Llewellyn involved in it.
Right,
I personally think we should, as each manager completes their budget, we all get one.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Before it goes to the other, one. Okay, so that we can see relative to the prior year. Okay? That way, when, Llewellyn looks at it, okay, we,
Llewellyn.
Luann, well, Louis, okay, Sharp. That way, when she gets it, okay, we have already looked at it and will save a lot of time.
Well, the treasurer, there's a glitch with the treasurer for this year, by the way.
Yeah, but what I'm looking for is, their budget for this coming year.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what we're looking at. The budget for the coming year,
okay,
it's usually based upon the budget for the past year with adjustments to it. And looking at what our tax rate is and, how much money we have. And then don't forget that by May the 1st, the council needs to appoint a treasurer. And we still have to determine the salary for that treasurer. Right now, the treasurer is an elected position, and as of May 1st, 2025, it becomes an appointed position.
well, that's all fellow good, okay? I just want to make sure that when each of these managers, okay, they should give their budget and disseminate to all of us. And
Yeah,
even
we
if
should have
this
a
guy's
preliminary.
done faster
Do
than
that.
this one, that's fine.
What you're asking for, you would like to see a preliminary budget from the city departments. So we have an idea of what's out there before we have to make a decision. Because bottom line is, what we usually in the past have received is a spreadsheet that gives us what the bottom line is for each of the categories on the budget, because it's controlled by statute and our own ordinances. The categories so that we know what the bottom line is for that category. And we know, for example, that this department has $7 million set aside. Another department has $4 million, and they have to work within that budget for the next year. And I think millions of dollars is too much.
Well,
It's more than we have.
if we can have them to do that and attach to that is last year's budget,
Right.
okay?
It all starts from
And
last year's budget.
that would be great. So I hope somebody will,
Right, unfortunately, we don't do zero-based budgeting. If we did zero-based budgeting, everybody starts from zero. And you put in there what you need to have.
well, I'm sure that there'll be something, so that'd be great. Maybe somebody will be finished this week or next week and we can start looking at them.
Yeah, I don't think so. Usually they just wait until, and then we also have a calendar to follow, because we have to submit that budget. Everything has to be submitted to the county by April 30th.
Well, I'm not submitting anything until I look at it,
Right, I agree.
so I don't want anybody running around and everything. That's all I got.
Penny,
I was just gonna say that the spreadsheet that we work off of, excuse me, has the prior year right on it, so
Good.
you'll be seeing them right side by side.
Good deal.
right, we always have the prior year plus the proposed year.
Good.
Okay. Anybody else on older person comments?
I think several people have mentioned our committee meetings, which we have, which in effect are really not committee meetings. I know the idea was to have a meeting rather than expect Sean to have a meeting with his people and Charlie and everybody else. So this is why they came up with a meeting which was supposed to be a committee meeting. But I have not seen the evidence of really having a committee meeting when we meet together. And it was suggested that maybe we suspend committee meetings or only have committee meetings when there are items and topics that need discussion by the whole group. I just throw that out. What's the feeling of the council about these? We're in a committee meeting tonight.
I feel that the past 4 or 5 meetings we've had, they're a whopping 15 minutes long. In my personal opinion, I don't think we need to meet every single Monday. I get that there's contracts, ordinances and all that stuff. Great, but I think it takes longer for you to get in your car to come up here, have a 12-minute meeting to get back in your car to take our happy butts back to our house. Now, again, that's the real talk. A lot of people don't like to hear it, but that's what I'm gonna say it, but I don't think we need to meet every single Monday. I don't know what the solution is. First Monday, last Monday, sorry. But yeah,
The purpose for the committee meetings is to have a first reading on ordinances and proposed ordinances, proposed changes, etc. And then at the council meeting is the second reading. The issue is that sometimes we don't even have a first reading right now. There's one item on the agenda tonight that shouldn't be on there, but there's another item that does require a first reading because it's street closures. And so that gives us a chance to discuss it before we have to vote at the council meeting. And that's the purpose for the, there used to be, before we realized we couldn't do it under the Open Meeting Act, because this occurred during Charlie and I and Lynn's first term on the council. There, we determined during that period that we were meeting with groups of 4, and you would only meet twice a month, 3 times a month. You'd have 2 council meetings and a committee meeting, and the committee would be 4 members of the council would be the committee, and we would have 2 committees that had the same 4 members. Technically, tonight's committee is cemetery ordinance, public property, and streets and alleys. The other 4 committees would meet on the next, on a different Tuesday, a Monday night. The reason why we went to a committee of the whole is because we had no way to decide how to have a committee that would allow for 2 members of the city council to meet outside of the meeting on an issue. Because the committees were committees of 4, 2 members of that committee formulate 2 members of a committee became a majority of a quorum and therefore would require posting a meeting. By having a committee of the whole, that means we have to go to 3. It would take 3 members of a committee to make the majority of the quorum and require that the meeting be posted under the Open Meeting Act, so we don't get fined for that. So that's why we have the full council meeting as a committee of the whole. In reality, we're only 2 committees tonight, or 4 committees. Committee of the whole, there are 8 committees. 4 meeting tonight are cemetery ordinance, public property, and streets and alleys. And that's what the topics should be, and that's what our topics are. And the clerk makes sure when the agendas for the meetings are posted that they are for the appropriate committee. Although we can bring up a topic, but this is about any committee. That's just an explanation as to why we meet the way we meet, because we have several relatively new people here. Just the way it is because of the Open Meeting Act. We are not, we don't have 15,000 people living in Lebanon, so we can't go to another ward or 2 and make it bigger. So that's the problem. Okay. Any other alderperson comments? Yeah, okay. Moving on then, the committee, cemetery committee.
Who wants to be on the cemetery committee? Any discussion, any thoughts, ideas on how we can improve the cemetery? Thank you very much. I appreciate
Dale,
the great input.
Dale, get that medallion.
Well, I was gonna tell them about that, Charlie. You put it into my comments. No, I talked to Carrie Christ about the medallion we're gonna put on. That'll say 1810, which is the first cemetery, first person buried that I can find the earliest. People who were gonna do it had basically forgotten about doing it, so she reminded them, and apparently it's in progress as we speak. When it's gonna be done, I can't answer. Anybody has any thoughts about the cemetery? Cody has used a grass retardant around the monuments and everything, as so that there is less people having to go around with the weed trimmers, and trim the monuments. I think he hopes to continue to do that. They have to look at the cost of the product. I talked to Michelle, and she was gonna look that up and see what it might cost for this coming year. But that sounded like an adequate thing, and it would appear to me, anyway, because I would drive through the cemetery periodically, that the grass cutting done by our own people seems to be more than adequate. Because before, we had the cemetery company come in, and they would cut the grass when, in the sense, the grass didn't even need to be cut. So we were paying extra money, and by having the city do it now, it seems to me that it's working out fairly well, that we cut the grass when it's needed. Theoretically, costing us less money than having a company come in and do it on a so-called schedule. And I don't know how many barrels we had. I jokingly thought one way of increasing the money would be to have more people die. And that way we would be able to get more cemetery. But we did, as talking to Luann, I think we did increase the price of burials. I think was it a year or two ago?
Yep.
So in other words, that is not a viable way, and the amount of money, what is it, $500 for a burial?
I think so, something like
Yeah.
that.
So in other words, we don't really make a great deal of money out of that anyway, so. Those are some of the major issues. Now, the equipment wise, I have not heard from Cody that we've had any major problems with the repair of the riding mower or the hand mowers. But that's always a possibility, so. Anybody have any other thoughts about the cemetery?
So no complaints from the residents?
Linda had mentioned that there were some people that, and I can't think of the name. What are the people that, own the corner house, the 4-story house? What's their last name?
Olson?
Was that?
Olson,
Yeah, well, I talked to,
Michelle?
Michelle, and I talked to Frank, and, Michelle particularly, apparently she has some kind of certification for working with monuments. And apparently you can't just work with a monument, if it's bent over, or having problems, but she can do that. I don't know what she would charge us, but we would have to go out and locate, I'm sure we have quite a few monuments that are tipped over and needed additional work. But, at least that's we have somebody in town that has a certification to be able to do that, should we choose to spend time on not necessarily replacing, but repairing and cleaning up monuments of people who were buried many, many years ago, before even I was born.
Really?
Yeah. So, any other comments about the cemetery? We have just had our first committee meeting. Thank you all for participating or not participating. And we'll move on to the next subject.
Okay, anything else for cemetery before we move on to ordinance? I have nothing for ordinance tonight. So, anybody have anything they want to bring up for ordinance? By the way, it's a time to bring up something you want the committees to look at. So the chair of the committee can go out and do the research and bring it back to the council for everybody to talk.
So George, if you want to work under unfinished business, you have, ordinance.
I have no update.
Oh, there's nothing, okay,
That was put in there without my knowledge.
okay.
I don't know why it got there, but probably because it was just hanging over. When I have an update, I've been doing some research. Now that I'm thinking, I can think again. I'm going to be able to do some research on other cities' ordinances and see what more cities, because right now we just used an ordinance from one city as a sample. And in doing that, also do research as to why those cities felt they needed to have an ordinance. So we had a stronger cause to do it or not do it. And it is a topic that needs to be discussed. But I'm not prepared to discuss it. Okay, moving on. Public property. Amber, you have anything for public property?
No, sir.
Okay, that's quick. Streets and alleys.
Nothing other than whatever you want to discuss on these upcoming road closures for all these events.
Right, it's not what I want to discuss, is that the chamber did their annual request for street closures for events. You've all received them. Do you have any comments about those?
Nothing other than we'll take the same precautions of blocking off alleyways and putting up our road closed signs and sign closures for every single one of these that we've done in the past.
Okay,
Yeah, I have a comment. Bobby and I have been talking about putting up some stop signs in key locations. Very few, probably 3 or 4 at the most. Maybe one down here at St. Clair even, because when the people go through the downtown here, they take off from the stop sign down there at Monroe and they make pretty good time going all through the city. And maybe the stop sign down there might be appropriate. I talked to Sean about it, and he feels, and I'm sure other people do, that stop signs do not control traffic. However, if you have a stop sign there and you have a police car that's close by, you can do it. But he said, well, the police don't always do that, and that is true. But at least it's maybe the people feel guilty if they run the stop sign, maybe not.
They won't.
They don't pop our house.
The only people them stop signs are gonna appeal to is the older people and new drivers until they get the lead under their feet.
Yeah. Well,
Those are the only people it's gonna appeal to. And then once they get the lead under their feet, they off and running.
from my
So-
point, yeah, there has to be some way of slowing down traffic.
Well, it's not gonna work, George. Mr. Trinket.
the only thing that will slow down traffic are what we call traffic calming measures. That would be bump outs, planters, things that force a car to slow down.
Yep,
And so we had discussed that. In fact, we made a motion to do it, and our street department hasn't done it. However, we do have, we even had a study done. The study came back. How many tens of thousands, we spent, we had a grant for that. It was like $20,000 spent to study the street and come up with a configuration. And they came up with a configuration that they believe would slow the cars down. So the problem is, we need $2 million to do it.
Yeah.
Because that includes bump outs, and includes reconfiguring the parking on St. Louis Street. And it looks like it worked. Other cities, because I did this research with other cities, it has worked using traffic calming things. So, we need to really say, do it to our street department.
So did it get approved by the council and the mayor and everything, like go ahead, spend however many
No, we
hundreds of
haven't
thousands
done
of
it.
dollars?
We have to budget it, put it in, but we have applied for the grants. Now, unfortunately, federal grants right now are kind of wishy-washy. We don't know what's going on. But we have applied for grants to do that. We're still waiting on the results of these grants that will assist us with it. Because we do have a plan, that's a major part of obtaining grant funding. But right now, all grant funding is kind of up in the air.
Right.
And so we gotta wait on it. I've got an $895,000 grant that I'm sitting on because I can't do anything with it.
So to answer your question about the stop sign, I could push it forward, but I'm just being 100% real with you, Mr. Trinka.
Oh, I know.
Stop signs don't mean nothing to nobody in this town, other than what Miss Washington said.
Unless
They
we-
don't, and they really don't, and to spend, let's just say on 3 or 4 stop signs, that's almost $1,000. Cause those things cost approximately $200 to $300 a piece.
Sure.
Cause they gotta go get it from warning lights, the whole 9 yards. Again, I could push for it more if the council would like me to, but I think it's a waste of budget money.
What we should be doing is meeting with the chief. Committee needs to meet, the chief of safety committee needs to meet with the chief and see if we can do something like get targeted enforcement. So there's targeted enforcement rolling around the city. You get targeted enforcement rolling around the city and you don't really know where it's gonna be targeted. And people start getting citations for going through stop signs, for speeding, etc., on targeted enforcement, because they can't do the whole city every day. We don't have enough officers to the whole city, but we can target.
13?
Hmm?
Don't we have 13 officers?
Yeah, but they're only 2 on at a time. Because of the shifts, and the way they have to be shifts, there's 2 to 3 officers on a time. That's all we have at any one time.
So George, the security at McKinley, do they have the authority to write tickets?
No,
No,
they don't.
I didn't think they did, but I know down by my house,
They are certified police officers,
down by my house, I was usually students who,
right?
tear through those stop signs down there.
I can sit in front of my house and on Hunters.
all the rent cops do down there is blow a whistle at you. They could call the Lebanon Police Department, by the time they get there,
Yeah.
that individual's gone.
Right. The officers, and so I wouldn't call them rent-a-cops, they are officers, full-time salaried officers with all the certifications and licenses. Well, the use of rent-a-cop with them is an insult. But the public safety officers at McHenry are certified officers, and if there was something that happened, they can arrest. And detain and arrest and detain. They can't arrest and charge, they can arrest and detain. So we have we have that secondary police department sitting there that we don't use, but we could.
They can write tickets also.
They could write a ticket if it was a violation of a university policy, like they write parking tickets on campus. Yeah, go ahead.
All these cars and trucks, if it's only 2 on at a time.
I know, we have all these vehicles.
And only 2 cops on at a time.
Well, that's why we need to have a sit down with the chief again, probably.
Mhm.
A private meeting with the chief, sit down, discuss it.
They're trying to impress the ladies, Linda.
They trying to press more than ladies, not just a man up in there.
They are doing other things on duty. They're doing investigations, they are doing other investigations, they're doing reports that they're writing. They are observing the cameras. We do have cameras downtown, those cameras have in fact
Do they
resulted
work?
in arrests. What?
Do they work?
Yes. When I'm on duty at the visitor center, I can call up to 2 cameras on the visitor center that are owned by the city, by the way.
I guess I better be careful where I'm walking.
Yeah. Okay, so anything else on the streets and alleys? You have anything else, John?
No, sir.
All right. Unfinished business, there is no update on discharging weapons in the city limits. Is there any new business to bring before the committees? Oh, excuse me, I forgot to ask, is everybody okay with sending forward a recommendation, a past recommendation on the Chamber of Commerce?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, put it on the agenda for next Monday. Thank you. Is there any new business to be brought up to the council?
What about the unfinished business, did you say?
There's only one item on unfinished business, it's still unfinished. Not prepared for discussion.
I thought we were gonna talk about it, but
Yeah, we're not prepared for discussion on it tonight.
it's not what we're talking about.
Right. It's worth talking about, but it's better to have an educated discussion with information. Anybody, anything else? Well, there being no further business by Robert's Rules of Order, we are adjourned.
All right, Robert.
So, George,
Yeah,
what is it that you are?
I can't answer your
restricting with
question.
others? Is it useless education? You ought to be able to say what general topic it is that you are restricting.